we sometimes spend lots of time thinking about the content and the delivery, but quite often the technology side of things is a bit of an afterthought. And frankly, sometimes I find it a little bit embarrassing when I'm at a conference and other speakers are failing to get their technology to connect, making all these mistakes. And as professionals, we should be doing better than that. So really what I want to be sharing with you in this workshop, and it is a workshop, so I'm going to be sharing lots of practical tips that hopefully you can take away. Whether you're super experienced using technology or whether you're a complete beginner, hopefully it's something you'll be able to take away. But I don't just want to talk it to you for 20-odd minutes. So if at any point you've got things that I've said that doesn't make sense, if you've got an extra question, feel free to interrupt me and we can have a bit of a dialogue about things. I have a firm belief that 90% roughly of mistakes people have when it comes to technology can be cured with basically a bit of prior knowledge and a bit of prior preparation. So 90% of the mistakes we see done on stage when it comes to technology can be cured just with a bit of advanced preparation. So I'm just going to share with you 3 areas. So the first thing is just about the slide design. The second area is how to set your laptop up to do presenting. And the third thing is what technology you should carry around with you. So that's where we're going with things. Let's start with slides. First thing to say is our president of PSA is a slide master. So if you've not come across Lee Jackson, he does a great talk on designing slides, and he also has a book called PowerPoint Surgery. But there's 2 books that have been really influential for me when I was coming up with my designs for PowerPoint. The first one's something called Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. He's sort of a bit of a guru when it comes to doing presentations. He very much was at the sort of forefront of leading this minimalist slide design idea. The book's fantastic because it's practical, but it also shares some of his philosophy of how to do it. He lives in Japan, so there's a lot of influences from Japanese design as well. And the second one is the Non-Designer's Design book. So if you're a bit clueless about design, if you're a bit clueless about what colours work, what's a font and the different categories of font, this book's a great practical example. It takes you through all the different things. So if you're designing a website, a presentation, whatever, there's some elements in there. Even if it just gives you the tools and the vocabulary to talk to your designer and sort of save it. So these are 2 books I highly recommend. I sat through 50 minutes of this talk. This is just horrendous. It was
Sorry, I thought that was my slides.
Yeah, sorry. It's just like yeah. The thing is, lots of people think a slide deck like this is basically the talk. This isn't the talk. You are the talk. This isn't the notes either. If you're going to do notes, you have separate notes. Another pet hate I have, and this is controversial. Every time you use a bullet point, a kitten dies. So the thing is, people think, okay, we've gone for almost too much information, let's break it down into bullet points. It doesn't work that way. There's a time and a place for bullet points, but usually it's not in a presentation like that. So try and avoid them. People switch off as soon as they appear on the screen. The next thing to think of is sort of cheesy clip arts and cartoons. That was so like the 2000s. So as soon as you have something really sort of cheesy on the screen, instantly a certain section of the audience is going to switch off, tune out because of that. The other thing is this: bad images. So loads of people sort of go onto things like Google Images. They find a nice image, they sort of copy it and they paste it in. Problem is the image is too small for what you need it to be. And then they stretch it across the screen, but probably not over the whole screen, so you get this horrendous border around there, and it's still got the watermarks. It looks bad, and it's also illegal as well, because you're using someone else's sort of property with that. So the best way of using images is just to take your own. It's so easy now with a phone camera just to snap a few pictures, and it's so much more personal as well. The problem is, if you're going to put your images on screen, most cameras now take images 4 or 5 megabits in size. Once you put that into the presentation, if you've got 20, 30 slides, you can imagine that your file size is going to be 50, 100 megabytes in size. Huge. You're not printing it out, so you don't need that resolution. So compress your images. On things like Keynote, PowerPoint, you've got the option to compress an image to make it small enough for the resolution to match the screen, but not to be printed out. It just saves file space. It means it's easier to transfer around. It means it also loads up far quicker because it's not loading a massive image, it's loading something small. So think about compressing images. And actually what I should have said at the start is, at the end I'm going to give you a link to a document that's free for you to download. It's got far more details than what I'm saying in 20 minutes. So that's free for you to use. It's got the more detailed explanations of what I'm saying. Yeah.
What's the resolution that you recommend for a slide then?
So usually, like I use PowerPoint, usually it gives you the option of different ones, whether you're going to do it for sort of screen, presentation or print. So I would say about what's called 150 dpi is getting sort of to the limits of what you want. Anything more than that, it sort of starts getting ridiculous. And the software is having to compress it for you. Whereas if you actually compress it in advance, it's just quicker. Save space. The other thing is embedding fonts. You have this lovely PowerPoint, and then you put it onto someone else's machine. And all the fonts are missing, and they get garbled. So there's an option when you save things is to embed the fonts into the presentation, which means when you save it, those fonts will go with it, and it should work on another computer. There's a few provisos. One is sometimes the fonts are sort of, they're protected and they can't be embedded. So sometimes you find the more ornate fonts don't go across. It's better just to use the more standard fonts that come with the presentation software, because then you're guaranteed it's going to be on another system rather than trying to use something fancy. So embed fonts, also videos. How many times have we seen someone try to play a video off YouTube with no Wi-Fi? It is just embarrassing. Never rely on the internet for your presentation. You have to have your video on your computer, and it sort of has to be linked there. And when you save it to a memory stick, which we all do for backups, the fonts and the videos get saved on the memory stick as well, not just the PowerPoint. Then it just can move around, and it's all, keep it in one directory. It means the links won't get messed up. Okay, that's a very brief overview, a bit about designing slides, as people far more experienced than me. So I want to talk about the next thing. That's how you set your laptop up. Because basically, if you're going to be using your laptop for presenting, that's its only job. You don't want it to be doing 100 other things on stage whilst you're trying to get it to put slides on the screen. So think about having a dedicated machine for presenting. Think about how you set it up. So one way to set it up is this: turning things off. Turn off Wi-Fi. Turn off auto updates. Turn off system sounds. You know when you open up a laptop and it makes the annoying, especially Windows, bing, bing, bing sounds. If you plug a USB stick in, it makes a ding sound. That's annoying, especially if it's plugged into the venue's PA. There's a very simple setting. You can turn it off. So anytime you plug anything in, turn something on, you don't have any sounds from your laptop, and it just stops it going through the PA. So turn off Wi-Fi, system sounds, turn off auto updates. Who's seen that moment where someone opens a laptop and it then goes updating 1 of 22 updates? And about 3 days later, it's finally finished. And if you switch that off, it's never going to happen, is it? And the other thing to turn off is things like screensaver and power saver modes, because you don't want your laptop sat on the side, ready to go, and suddenly it decides it's going to save some energy, save the planet, and it just ruins your PowerPoint. So turn things off that you don't need. Second thing to think about is volume. Now here's just a really, really simple tip. Set the volume on your laptop at about 70%. What that means is when you've done the sound check at the start, the sound operator, if there is one, can set the sound at about 70%. Then if you find when you're sort of actually on stage and it's too loud, you can bring the sound down. You can either do it on the laptop or my remote has a volume control. If it's too quiet, you've got room to raise the volume. If you've set it at 100% at the start, you've got nowhere to go up, have you? So I think 70% is a good level to set it at. So you can go up and down. Screens. You saw at the start, you saw my desktop, sort of fake desktop. It was embarrassing, wasn't it? Again, if you're a professional, you don't want people to be seeing that. You don't want people to be seeing your family shots, probably, your holiday shots. I've seen far worse on screen as well. Quickly covered up, but yeah, that presenter had nowhere to go after that. So if you're going to use it, think about how you set your desktop. A really simple way is just to upload, if you've got a company logo, just put that in the background on the desktop. Then when you start it up, the logo comes on the screen. Another one, some of you will know this a lot, but you've got two choices when you set your laptop up. You can either clone the screen. That's basically what I'm seeing on the screen here is what's on the projector screens. That's sort of the default when you sort of set up a projector. A much better way is called an extended or a secondary monitor. So what you see on a laptop is different to what the audience sees. So this is what it'd be like on one of my slides earlier. So on the left is what I would be seeing, and on the right is what the audience sees. And you can see on the left, there's a lot more information. So this is a bit of a zoom in. You've got things like the clock. So you've got a clock that you can be looking. This is called the presenter mode, if you have it in standard. So you can see the clock. You can see how long you've been talking for. You can include notes at the side, so you can refer to them. You can also see what slides are coming up, so it gives you a little prompt. So if you don't use presenter mode, it's just a super tool just to aid you as a presenter. And that's just a simple setting. You have to have it as an extended monitor, and you have to click a little box, but it's as simple as that. It just gives you more flexibility, and there's stuff hidden away that the audience don't see. And details how to do that in the handout. 3 things you need to know of. Keystrokes. First one, most familiar with B. If you hit the B button, it makes the screen go black. If you hit the any button again, it pops back up. If you hit the W button, it makes it go white. Not much cool for a white background, other than I find it really useful if you're having to set the screen and the projector up. If you display a white rectangle, it's just a really simple way of aligning the screen because you've got something to work from rather than other colors. Do you know what happens if you hit 27 and the enter button? Jumps to slide 27. If you hit 8 and enter, it jumps to slide 8. This is a brilliant way, if you need to suddenly jump to a different part in your presentation, you can do that instantly. 2 buttons and you're there. So if you find suddenly you're 10 minutes short on time and you need to jump the last few slides, and you know what the last few slides are that you're going to, just type that number in and it'll jump you there. And it's just, no one sees that, you just go like this and you're there. And if you want to, you can have a crib sheet by your laptop which tells you what's on each slide, and then you can jump around. If you want to be super advanced, you can put hyperlinks in it, so if you click things, it will jump around, but doing the numbers is just a super simple way to do that. We've got less than 5 minutes, so I just want to talk about what tech stuff you should have. Basically, all my tech stuff, apart from my laptop, is in this bag here. I take way more than I need, but I'd rather be super prepared. I've never been let down with what's in my kit, and if I do find a problem, I'll buy a new bit of kit. Basically, what you've paid today to come here will be the cost of this kit. So if you want to invest in your business, we're talking no more than 50 quid, really. That will set you up pretty much for life and speaking. So first thing to talk about is remote control. Everyone's got their own preferences. You basically want something that's really clear when you click forward or back. It's a really clear click. You don't want one that's going to jump ahead on you. You want one that is a radio-based one. If it's infrared, that's like a TV remote control. You have to point it at that. That doesn't work in a big venue. Here's a really lovely tip. If you have got a big venue and the computer's at the back, buy yourself an extended USB cable. This is just an extension cable. So when you've got the dongle for your remote, you plug the normal USB of the cable in here, put the dongle on the end of this, and stick it to a wall with a bit of blue tack. What that means is, this is at the back of the room. You've basically made a really tall aerial, And it means the range of your remote control has been extended a good 50 meters more because it's then got line of sight. £2, it means you can use your remote a lot better. My remote's got forward back, it's got mute, it's got the black screen button, and it's got a volume up and down. That's all I need. I don't need anything more fancy than that. I think if you start having more buttons, you can get into trouble with that. We've seen speakers sort of go on and their remote's not working. Really simple tip. If it's not been switched on, I have my remote upside down. If I've turned it on, I have it this way. So I just look at the desk, which way round it is, it tells me if I've got it switched on or not. And it just saves me having to, sort of, if I'm sitting waiting to go on, have I switched it on, haven't I? I can see instantly if it's on. Does that make sense? Other things, cables you need. There's 2 different systems for connecting a laptop to projectors. The old one is the VGA system. That's this sort of cable. That's getting a little bit dated now. It means you don't get as crisp an image, but most venues still have this. However, in the last few years, lots more venues are going over to HDMI, which is this sort of cable. And this is the digital one. You get a crisper image. It also sends a sound across with it. The problem is we're at that stage now where the venues are both VGA and HDMI. So as a presenter, you need to cover both bases. Now, if you're an Apple user, you're going to have to get 2 adapters, VGA and HDMI. It's a bit expensive, but easy. If you're a PC user, your laptop's probably got one or the other. So you need to adapt. It's easy to adapt from HDMI to VGA. It's really hard to do it the other way. But you can do it. Anyone interested, I've got this £8 from eBay. It converts it the other way and sends sound across. And then the other thing you can think about is getting some sound cables. This other one, this cost me £1. This is like a female-to-female VGA cable. Have you ever had that moment where the cable's not long enough to get to your laptop? Have one of these, put it on the end of this, and then you can connect to the venues one. It just gives you another couple meters of cable to get there. So I've got more details on the handout. This is the link to the handout. It's just a free download. You're not, Jeremy, you'll be glad to know, you're not going to be getting signed up to my mailing list. It's a direct link, free for anyone to use, for your own use. If you want to pass it on to other people, could you ask me first? And I'd really appreciate your feedback on it, because it's a work in progress. What works, what's wrong, and then we can improve it, and hopefully it'll be a document that everyone can find useful. So hopefully that session, there's been some stuff that you can use in your own thing. So thank you for your attention. Cheers.